Welcome to the Hyper Hello World workshop. In this workshop, we will start to learn how to use Hyper with the Hyper Cloud. Hi, my name's Tom Wilson, and I'm the CEO of Hyper, and I am happy today to introduce you to our new developer preview Hyper Cloud dashboard. Right now, you can go and sign up for the developer preview by going to dashboard.hyper.io. And in dashboard.hyper.io, you can click the GitHub button to sign up. You log in with your GitHub account, and you will be enrolled into our portal where you can create Hyper applications. The Hyper dashboard gives you access to Hyper applications which provide services. Those services are data, cache, storage, search, and queues. Right now in the developer preview, we have access to the data service. And you get keys. So we'll use this connection string key to connect to our data service in this workshop. So if you have time, go to dashboard.hyper.io so you can follow along. In the workshop, there's a README, and it is in a GitHub repository. In the description, there will be a link to get to this workshop. So if you want to follow along, pause now, click the link, go to the GitHub repo, and you can either fork it or whatever, and you can actually open it up in Github, which I'm using by using the Github extension. And then you have this little Github button, or you can click down here, open in Github, and launch it that way. And Github is a ephemeral development environment that allows you to run applications. And so it will help us go through this Hello World tutorial or workshop. And in this, we're going to set up a developer account, and then we're going to create a Mario Wiki API. This API will allow us to write and retrieve JSON documents of popular Mario characters. So let's get started. First thing we want to do is create our account, or go to dashboard.hyper.io, and I'm going to create a new application, Midnight Blue Cloudburst. So we'll create that app with data, and then I'm going to select that application, and I'm going to click the little copy symbol here to the connection string, and then I'm going to go back to my code environment, and I'm going to create a new file in the Hello World folder called .env. In that .env file, I'm going to add hyper equals, and I'm going to paste the connection string. So I've got my connection string in my .env file. I'm going to close that file, go back to the README, make sure it's in the Hello World directory. That's good. And now I'm going to start the server. So we've got this server pre-built with essentially the code we want to change kind of stubbed out. So we can just do .scripts, .start, .sh, and what that'll do is pull down the web server framework and then run the server.js file in the Hello World directory. And it's running on localhost port 3000. So we can go and check that out by opening up our URL here. And you can see we're running Mario Wiki API, which is pretty cool. Maybe I can zoom in on that. Very cool. Okay. Now we've got that running, and we're going to create a character. So what we want to do is we want to use HyperConnect, which is the SDK for Hyper, to essentially create a document in our Hyper data service. So our Mario document has an ID, a type, a name, and a description. The first thing we want to do is import Hyper from HyperConnect. So I'm going to go into the Hello World folder and go to the API and create character.js file. And I'm going to import Hyper from HyperConnect. Okay. Now, HyperConnect is an SDK that provides a RESTful wrapper around all the data calls for the Hyper services, or all the calls, in this case, the data. So this is, if you're familiar with Express, this is Opine and Dino, and it gives us a request and a response. And on that request is the body of what we'll be pasting in. So what we want to do is call await and then call hyper.data.add, and then we're going to add the request.body. Now, in the real world, we would validate that body and make sure it's of correct shape and et cetera before we added it to our business logic and to our data service. But in this example, in the interest of time, we're just going to trust, which you should never do, trust the client to send the right information. So we've got that, and it's just await hyperdata.add and then your JSON document. Now we can test it out in curl, or we can use a tool that I like, hopscotch.io. That's kind of fun. So what we want to do is get this URL, and we'll go to hopscotch.io, and we'll call this URL, and it's API/characters, like that. And then we want to do a post, and in our body, we want to create our JSON. So we're going to do ID equals character1, type equals character, name equals Mario, right? And description equals the first character in the Mario universe. But was it the first character? I don't know. And then let's hit send. All right. So we sent that to our API, and then our API sent that to our Hyper data service, and we got back a response. Okay, true, character1. So let's go ahead and write some code to get that character back. And we can do that in our get character.js. Oops, I think that's the wrong one. Get character.js in the Hello World API. So what we want to do is import Hyper from HyperConnect. And then we want to get a character. I'm trouble typing. And we'll await and then do hyper.get or data, because it's hyper and then the service and then the action dot get. And with this request, it's going to have params and an ID. So we'll say request params.id. And then we just want to return it to the caller. So we'll do response.send, and we'll just send the character like that. Okay. So that's our get document or get data. And let's go over to Hopscotch and see how that works. So we'll select this to get, and it's API/characters and then the ID. So the ID that we added is character-1. And if we hit send, great, we got character-1. Awesome. Hopefully this looks very intuitive, very easy, and just very straightforward to get started. You simply create an app in the Hyper dashboard, and then you get your connection string. You add that to your HyperConnect SDK, and in this case via an environment file right here. It's taking a little bit to return, but there it is. And then once you have that, you import the SDK either from npm or in this case Dino. And in Dino we're using import maps, so it will look similar. And then in your business logic, you call the service and the action that you want, passing the parameters, and await that because it always returns a promise, and you get your data. And if there's an error, it will throw an error that you can catch in the promise. So it's very easy to work with. It should be something you're very familiar with if you've worked with REST APIs, and it's a lot of fun. So this is the Hello World workshop. We created a character and we got a character, and in the next workshop we'll take it a little bit further, but here's some examples you can play with where we create a few characters and then get the characters in the workshop. So I'll leave that for you, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.